What is up, guys? Welcome to a brand new video. So a little while ago we looked at the best late game champions at the time, and now we're going to check my top 10 early game champs who are great at getting leads and winning early for kind of easier games. Remember, by the way, I'm actually doing some free coaching over on QT, which will start soon. So if you're interested, there is a link down in the description, and there is still time to enter to be coached for free. I know I always do videos about what is best in each role and stuff, but people have different play styles, right? Some like to farm, some like to kill stuff early, and I think I might do more of these. So if you enjoy like storming early game, you know what's best to play at the moment. But anyway, let me know and let's jump into it. So Shaco and Annie are really good examples of strong early game champions, but the difference is they don't really need to do well early because they're also very good later into the game. This video is obviously my opinion, but I've also backed it up with a lot of stats. So Shaco and Annie, for example, they're good early, but they're also good late right now in 7.3 in season 7. Talon is going to kick us off at number 10, and remember, this is mainly focused on the first 25 to maybe 30 minutes of the game. Roaming is the awesome early part, to be honest, about Talon. Your lane phase is good still, you have some decent kill potential, but when you roam, you can avoid wards, you jump over walls, and it's a great way to snowball the game. The idea and why it's so good early is you can win not only your lane, but others as well, right? You keep diving bot lane, for example, over and over. You soon put them very far behind, and you're able to push towers. You win the game that way. That is what we're really looking at, like champions who can flat out win a game easily in the early stages of a game with this top 10. You do have really high damage with lethality, especially now it's better earlier, but number 10 because he is still effective later, just not as much. Teamfights for assassins are notoriously always very hard, right? Everybody's grouped up, there's way more crowd control to lock you down now, but if you flank, you're able to do still a bit more. The main thing with Talon is your roaming, big time. Like, you're using your early damage to burst people down, then you're running away over walls so they cannot kill you and get that shutdown. You're very slippery, but you're just very hard to play against. The next one is Akali, so she's not as popular right now, and she's different to the other seasons actually as well. Before, you had to snowball really hard, otherwise you'd kind of be useless later and the game would be over. I actually had her at number 5 in my initial list before I researched each pick. The fact her shroud now grants invisibility though, and pink wards or control wards, whatever, don't reveal her, actually makes her team fight so much better. She's still very good early, which is why she's in the video, but number 9 because she doesn't really have to rely on it as much anymore. Once you do get behind versus Akali, you're pretty screwed though. Everybody has probably been there at one stage or another. If you get in range of her ulti, it's just basically game over. She'll dive on you and you'll die. The healing from the gunblade plus her passive plus her burst make her so hard to deal with and to stop. Like, she's gonna dive in, she'll burst you down and then heal back any damage you manage to put onto her. The main thing here though is the amount of damage you get early and how easy it is to use it. It's really not that hard to play Akali in my opinion, just at a simple level. If you get fed, it's not hard. You just Q, you R, and that's basically it. So Blitzcrank is the early game support in my opinion. So as soon as level 2 hits, he's capable of stomping basically any single matchup. The fact that he can hook someone to him is something that completely screws matchups actually. It does a lot of damage anyway, your hook and your fist afterwards, but it means you're taking free damage from the enemy AD carry as well. The issue really is if you get behind against a Blitzcrank, then you cannot farm, right? He's going to stick forward a little bit, and as soon as you lose the cover of your minions, you are done in that lane. He's much better in lane than elsewhere as well. In team fights, he can start them well, but otherwise a knock up, a very quick silence, that's basically it. Really the focus is on hooking people in the lane phase, getting his AD carry fed, putting the enemy AD behind. In theory, you rinse and repeat hooks until you just demolish the AD and his farm count. I think because he's a support, some people might not realize it, like how good he actually is early into the game, but he can legit win a bot lane solo and a face roll it into the ground like nobody else. The main thing right now especially is there are loads of low mobility AD carries that make easy targets. You blow their flash and they have nothing left to dodge your hooks. It's very easy to snowball and take over a game that way. Afterwards you can roam, you can punish other laners, and you can really snowball the entire map if you play it correctly. Vogue has always been a beast early game champion, right? And the rework isn't really any different. She's very strong 1v1, still able to pick up a lot of kills in the lane phase and really bully your opponent. Your roaming is also very strong as well. You only need Morello, if that actually, really to start punishing people, and she's seen as one of the most solo carry champions, which is also why she's so popular and banned so often. Before this patch and before the rework, it probably would have been a bit higher in this video. You still have a lot of damage if you get ahead. You're constantly one-shotting people even now. Your passive though was nerfed for the early game, right? Your new passive anyway is not as strong as the old Q mark. It's a bit harder to use to bully people. It's also because I think she's better late game now. She has better farming with a new wave clear, a slightly better team fight in my opinion, and partly because of how strong she is anyway, she is not that bad late game. The main thing is, yes, she's very strong in lane and early game. She's really good at snowballing a game, but she's also decent later into it. She's not 100% face roll anymore. She's not like a stomp or nothing early game as much as she used to be. Quinn is like the LeBlanc of top lane actually right now. Basically a more ham version of Talon, I think, as well. Lethality has really kicked her into another gear. In lane with her auto procs on the enemy champion, she does a ton of damage. She's ranged, so naturally she has a good lane phase anyway, but she's more about her bird form actually. You're able to base and you can fly to other lanes super fast. They think you're just going to come back to lane, you might be a bit delayed waiting for an item or something, but by the time they realize you're not coming back to the lane, it's too late. You have an insane amount of damage early into the game now, which makes those roams more deadly. You're able to fly around, kill people, push towers. You can close out a game super quickly and very easily. Lethality is definitely a big part of this, I think, right now. Duskblade, Ghostblade give her a lot of arm pen plus the move speed active as well, and AD, which she's able to abuse. Late game, you're not really designed for team fights though, let's be honest. Like short kind of range, like diving into people with your E, flying around doesn't really help much either. The main thing is you can roam around before the enemy team gets to team fights, before they're able to do anything to react to you. It's also very easy, like having a second jungler who just ganks a lot. So AD carries are not really designed to be super good early, honestly. They're supposed to be the best scaling with items and their autos carry later into the game, but Draven is a little bit different. Your Q is buffing your autos from the very start of the game. That's going to help them hurt before we get to our items, but you're super aggressive. You have built-in attack speed into your kit. You have a disruption tool. Your E effectively blocks one auto attack with the time that they're displaced, and then your ultimate burst as well. It's also about how easily we can end though. With items, the scaling on our Q is insane, and we start to be able to 3-shot people. Items aren't even hard to get either when we have our passive giving us a ton of gold. You can easily get like a free 1,000 gold if we get a few kills, which just helps us snowball the game even harder. Lethality is definitely making it worse at the moment, but he's always been decent early and more of a snowball champion, especially with this new passive. If he gets a lead, that lead will normally keep growing and growing. The main thing is your Q buffing your autos, your W giving attack speed, your E to fight, your R to burst. Your whole kit is designed to not need items, but when we get them with our bonus gold, we snowball even harder. Lee Sin is no real surprise on this list, like one of the best gankers in the entire game, I think, because of his damage and mobility, but it comes at a price. It's a lot harder to play Lee late game, and unless you've done some work early, you tend to fall back on relying on your team, which is not really what we want, to be honest. Lee is so popular, I probably don't even need to explain this that much, to be honest. His early clear is decent enough to gank, and he's always going to be a threat. He's a lot like Shaco, actually. When he's on the enemy team, you always know that he's able to impact the map a ton. He can gank every lane and get kills and snowball super hard, but the difference is Shaco this season does a bit more later into the game. I think it's a bit more all or nothing. Now, you get a lead, you snowball lanes, but eventually you're going to fall off a bit, and the enemy team will be able to deal with you. He is really good in the early game, though. That is why he's number 4, especially with just a few damage items. There's no real way to stop Lee or to duel him if he gets rolling, and that is what makes his early game so beast. The main things releasing really are your mobility with wards, so you don't give away shutdowns because you can escape or you can get into ganks. You have your Q from range to get in as well, plus your ultimate damage, your E to slow, and even your clear speed in the jungle is decent enough to allow you to gank a lot. As with all of these top 10s that I do, quickly pause the video and leave a comment guessing who my top 3 are going to be, and let's see if you're right. There's no cheating. I'm going to ramble for a second so you have time to pause the video, and then we're going to go into our third pick. So Elise is basically like another version of Elise Sin, but even worse later, and arguably even better early game. She's able to practically one-shot people early into the game because you cocoon, you full combo, and they're gone. Her farm is quick and healthy as well, which means even more gank time. Your ganks are great as well with the damage and crowd control, plus you even have a gap closer or a way to dodge incoming damage, I guess, with her repel. The thing is, her damage is much higher than other junglers because of her base damage. It's so high at the moment. You build penetration, you're going to be ripping through people before they have any magic resist. The issue though, and why she's in the top 3, is because your team fight is super hit and miss. You have a lot of damage, but you can't really use it very well. Like your cocoon is a single target and hard to hit past tanks. Your spiders get blocked or the little ones die to AoE damage. You can't really full combo people, and that's what you have to do. Now, saying that, you have really good clear speed in ganking, you have high damage, but that damage doesn't translate into team fights very well. She can snowball a game out of control early, but she kind of has to do that, otherwise she doesn't really have much impact. The next one is going to be Pantheon, and basically everything I said for Quinn applies to Pantheon as well, actually, except he's even easier and it's even worse, I think. You spam your Q in lane, you jump in with your W when you feel the time is right, you press your E. It's super simple, but it's very strong and it does a lot of damage. It's actually very hard to play against the constant pounding you get, plus the blocks, the crits when you get low as well. Everything together is just a very pain in the ass kit to play against. Once you've given them the business though, in the lane phase, you just roam around like Quinn, but with your ultimate basically. Every time it's up, it's just a free gang. Your damage is nuts with lethality and Duskblade especially. It's very hard to deal with that like one-shot combo. If he gets ahead and you're in range of his W, you're probably going to die. Late game, you do not have that much to fall back on though. Your ultimate is pretty bad for team fights and you're so one-dimensional. You do damage with your Q, you stun with your W, your E is probably going to get interrupted. So once you can't combo someone and kill them, you're kind of done so. The main thing really is your roaming with ultimate though, and the damage that can spiral a game out of control before anyone can really do anything to react and stop it. Now, number 1 is going to be Ivern. Actually, this is going to be a little bit of a surprise, but he is so good early game and later just doesn't really do as much, or he's not anywhere near as overpowered anyway. Early game, you have decent base damage, you have good ganks with your E, you're jumping to people and your shields, but this is actually more to do with the mid-game grouping stage. Actually, to be fair, your clear is super good because you're Ivern, your ganks are really good as well, so you can snowball really hard. You're kind of like a similar kit to Release, actually. The thing is, once you group, it's a whole new level. Your shields plus Daisy disruption with your ultimate plus redemption and eventually locket is just ridiculous. It's really hard to play against and actually beat a group team with Ivern in it. Like, it's what we see in the LCS a ton. Your support rushes locket, Ivern rushes redemption, then you have like 2 or 3 shields plus redemption plus the bushes and the stun and the Daisy knockup. When you fight a team like that, especially if you're behind, it becomes really hard to do anything. So instead of this guy carrying with super high damage, he's carrying by being the most irritating and hard to play against champion. It really shows in his win rate as well. It's first overall as a jungler ending the game before 30 minutes. So yes, while Lee Sin does more damage early and stuff like that, you'd expect him to be a bit better at snowballing the game. Actually, Ivern does. He just wins the game by not ever dying and catching people over and over again and diving when you are grouped as a team. The only issue with Ivern is the later it gets, the more you turn into another support base. So you don't do as much anymore. You are better early into the game by far. With Ivern, you are a really good ganker. You farm well as well. You snowball lanes and then you group with Daisy, shields, heals, and redemption to make sure nobody dies, and you steamroll over team fights. So that number one probably caught a lot of you guys off guard. It's a very different kind of way at looking how somebody snowballs a game, but honestly, Ivern is one of the best at ending a game quickly. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Let me know what you think of it in the comments. Thank you for watching, but for now, let's go to the robots.